Greetings, everyone. Today, we will explore 4 teachings that invite us to reconsider various aspects of our lives. Are you ready? Welcome to my podcast, A Psychologist Looks at Scripture. I am Peter Doherty, a Catholic priest and a psychologist. Drawing from my expertise in psychology and scripture studies, I aim to offer unique insights into the Gospels and innovative pastoral teachings for Christians. The Gospels are rich with knowledge about God and the development of our spirituality. Always more to uncover. Each episode typically lasts between 7 to 10 minutes, during which I share reflections and insights that I hope will be beneficial to you. I encourage your questions and comments. Your feedback is invaluable. Today's podcast focuses on the well-known scripture passage known as the Beatitudes. The term Beatitudes originates from the Latin word meaning blessed or happy. Within the context of the Sermon on the Mount, the Beatitudes serves as declarations of blessings pronounced by Jesus, emphasizing the values and the characteristics that define those who belong to God's kingdom. Each Beatitude describes groups, often viewed as unfortunate or marginalized, proclaiming their blessed status and thus redefining societal norms regarding success and righteousness. This is not the only example of Jesus redefining social norms. To remember, the first shall be last and the last shall be first, which is actually found in several passages in the scriptures. I'll leave you with one reference, Mark chapter 10, verse 31. Remember the story of the workers in the vineyard who were paid the same amount regardless of the hours they spent working in the vineyard. We see this in Matthew chapter 20, verse 1 to 16. Jesus is very familiar with redefining societal norms. I am concerned, though, that some may not strive for self-improvement, mistakenly believing that a better world awaits them. Nothing could be further from the truth. This mindset could lead to complacency regarding social and current situations, which I doubt is what Jesus intended. The Beatitudes are not merely statements of happiness. They encapsulate profound spiritual truths about God's kingdom and our spiritual development. They highlight qualities such as humility, mercy, and a thirst for righteousness, promising future rewards for those who embody these traits. Consequently, the Beatitudes are foundational teachings, outlining the ethical and spiritual framework for Christian discipleship. They can also be found in Matthew chapter 5, verse 3 to 12. But there are notable differences between Matthew and Luke's version. Matthew, for example, includes 8 Beatitudes, while Luke lists only 4. But Luke also includes criticisms of the wealthy. There has been much speculation regarding what is meant by poor. Matthew's phrase uses poor in spirit, and this nuances Luke's understanding of poverty. Are we discussing material poverty or a lack of power, access to resources, or health? Likely, Jesus was addressing multiple levels of meaning while speaking to crowds that were very likely poor and lacked societal influence. As a psychologist, it was initially challenging for me to hear Jesus speak so positively about poverty. The poor often lack resources and opportunities that others take for granted. I suspect Jesus challenged the wealthy because they have the means to address problems, but may use their wealth with its privileges to distract themselves from uncomfortable situations. In contrast, the poor lack such options and are vulnerable to circumstances beyond their control. As a member of a religious order I've taken the vow of poverty, my understanding of this vow has evolved significantly over time. Initially, I was taught that material possessions blind us from our true calling. I later viewed this vow as a means of developing solidarity with the poor, a perspective I found puzzling, since it seemed more relevant to us than to them. Recently, I encouraged an insightful presentation advocating for using our resources to lift the poor out of poverty, an idea or proposition that deserves further thought and consideration. I would like to add another perspective. It is clear that Jesus blesses the poor. This message is clear. The poor hold a special place with God. We need to remember this when we ever find ourselves judging someone because of their economic or societal status. The second beatitude states that those who hunger are blessed. Jesus was likely referring specifically to his first listeners, who frequently faced hunger due to crop failures and lacked food storage options. Their vulnerability was exasperated by forces beyond their control. Banquets would have special significance for those who were often deprived of food. Historically, poor harvests would be interpreted as divine punishment for sin. Jesus challenges this notion by assuring them that their hunger will not last long. The third beatitude speaks to those who weep. We are called to be a people of hope, a state that often leaves us vulnerable to disappointment. Personally, I prefer experiencing disappointment alongside hope rather than feeling nothing at all. These emotions signify life itself. Grief arises from love. Thus, living fully entails experiencing loss. We do not simply get over grief, but we learn to coexist with it. Anniversaries and memories serve as reminders of our loss. Ideally, the sting of grief lessens over time. Not through letting go, but embracing our reality. The fourth beatitude addresses those who are persecuted for their relationship with God. Choosing to follow God's will can often alienate us from others. In the early Christian faith, such faith could cost one's life. Today, religious persecution does exist in countries such as Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Iran, North Korea, and Afghanistan. Even in Western societies, where Christianity is not overly attacked, there are challenges that Christians face every day in practicing their faith. A mature spirituality must embrace both grace and human imperfection. Luke's version includes a critique of the wealthy, an aspect I find puzzling given my encounters with many faithful, wealthy individuals who use their resources honorably. What does Jesus mean here? I interpret this passage as expressing concern that wealthy individuals may overlook their responsibility as tied to their own wealth and power. To whom much is given, much is expected. It's thought-provoking that Jesus mentions false prophets. He likely understood how power and privilege could distract or influence people negatively. I urge anyone committed to spiritual growth to reflect on influential figures in their lives. Did they earn their admiration? Are we prepared to recognize the unsung heroes in our own communities? Luke's Beatitudes challenges those who equate wealth with divine favor. Such individuals would do well to reconsider this passage. If you are wealthy or powerful, this reading may be challenging. However, do not despair. Approach it thoughtfully. You bear significant responsibility. Use your power, talent, and treasure wisely. Thank you for listening. Join me next week when we delve into another gospel passage from Luke, featuring some more of Jesus' profound teachings. If this is the first time tuning in, I encourage you to explore previous episodes available on various podcast platforms and YouTube. New episodes are being released every Sunday in anticipation of the upcoming week's gospel. Your feedback is crucial for enhancing this podcast. I want to express my gratitude to my team members, Heather Patel-Doherty and Ritu Colon, for their essential contributions in preparing this podcast. For any questions or concerns, please reach out via email at peter.doherty, DOHERTYOMI, @gmail.com. God bless you all and have a blessed week.